Ukraine is already using its own guided aerial bombs. The Russians are in a panic. However, the front, friends, is crumbling. The upstate promises disappointing future map updates. They are going to reach Poland on a Russian zombie truck, but at the same time they admit that the inhabitants of Russia are going to war out of total poverty. Friends, I will briefly tell you about all this in the story. Traditionally, forgive me for my voice, I got sick. At the end, a story about cookies from the FSB. So watch this story to the end. Cookies that can kill you. I will start, friends, with the positive at first glance, so that you filter what you read on the internet. The European Union is ready for membership negotiations with Ukraine. The European Commission supported the start of the process. Ursula von der Leyen emphasized, Ukraine has fulfilled all its obligations. Now it's our turn. However, as always, it's not without nuances. Hungary continues to block Ukraine's progress on its path to the EU, in particular the opening of the first negotiation cluster. Interestingly, friends, is not blocking Moldova's accession, but Ukraine's accession. Well, the reasons are clear. If you know what I mean, the EU leaders' summit on June 26 did not change the situation. Hungarian Prime Minister Orban previously expressed a claim to Ukraine due to insufficient, as he believes, protection of national minorities, in particular the Hungarian one, now explains this by saying that Ukraine cannot join the EU. It is the last war. Look. So it's too early to rejoice, although in general the EU is ready to start negotiations. Putin's friends in Europe continue to do their job. They continue to do their job, friends. And our defenders. A video has appeared of a Ukrainian frontline bomber using an FAP aerial bomb 500. Why am I telling you about it, friends? It's important. These are self-made aerial bombs. The declared range is 60 kilometers with prospects for increasing the range to 80 to 100 kilometers under ideal conditions of dropping from a high altitude. This is a real breakthrough. Russian propaganda outlets are already reporting that damn, everything sucks. In short, everything sucks. Well, on this channel we tell you the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. By the way, subscribe if this is your first time here. I don't always have such a voice, usually with a normal one, but the situation at the front is really not very good. If you looked at the Dipstate map this morning, we did too, you know that Dipstate reports significant successes in the enemy's advance in the Donetsk region. The worst situation is in the southwest of the region. The enemy is also actively carrying out attacks from Zaporizhia in the direction of Zerka. In a minute, friends, about a new Russian strike and preparations for it. Armored vehicles, tanks, manpower. Everything this is what awaits the Zaporizhia direction, my dear. And against this background, unexpected results of a survey of Ukrainians. Are you ready to fight or are you ready to negotiate now, even on unfavorable terms? The numbers will amaze you. Watch until the end. So, friends, the Russians are continuously storming, attracting a large number of infantry. The next map update will, unfortunately, be disappointing. The OVSTATEs are talking about one very important problem. This is the problem of false reports to the command. This problem, it seems, has a systematic nature. The unpleasant fact is that, for example, the unit E, which is deployed in the TRG Vuhgolder strip, systematically receives false information from the command. They probably want to curry favor with the higher command and not give bad news. Because of this, it becomes even worse. It's all sad. There is also information that Russia will actively attack the Zaporizhia direction in the coming days. They record a large number of BC equipment in the Mariupol direction.
Dear subscribers of Yaніна Sokолова, the reconnaissance platoon of the 1st Assault Battalion, the 1st Separate Assault Regiment of Da Vinci, is contacting you. Due to the fact that currently in the Pokrovsky direction, gunpowder is destroying our equipment and pickups every day, we have an urgent need to turn to you for help. We are opening a bank to collect for a pickup truck, which will allow us to bring the BC to positions and carry out rotations even faster. With your help, everything will work out for us and victory will be in the near future. Glory to Ukraine. Hero, glory to the heroes.
And in the context of the Russian advance on the front, friends, a very interesting poll has appeared. 21.4% of Ukrainians want to continue the fight to reach the borders of 91 or 22. Poll by the Center for Social and Marketing Research SWA. About 56% of Ukrainians are in favor of finding a compromise solution with the involvement of leaders of other countries in order to end the war. Write your thoughts in the comments. It is very interesting to know. And the Russians are committing sabotage in Europe in the meantime. In Germany, for example, they burned 6 trucks on the territory of a military unit. Zinkori reports this. They decided that this equipment would go to Ukraine, but the Bundeswehr symbols and corresponding license plates were clearly visible on the equipment. Therefore, they were mistaken. I wonder what the response will be, whether the Germans will remain silent or not. Another vivid example of Russian madness. Threatened to reach the borders with Poland. This is done by the deputies of the State Duma. Alexander Borodai, do you remember such a traitor who has been killing Ukrainians since the 14th year, inciting interethnic hatred and has already risen not only to the heads of their own republics, but also to a deputy of the State Duma? So, Borodai wants to reach the borders of Poland, so that you understand, Russian follow. That is, until when should we reach what? Where should the border be? Reach it we must go to the border with Poland, and then we will see. Perhaps some part of the regions, the western Ukrainian regions, will have the opportunity to self-determine. They want to live in their own separate western Ukrainian state, the way they live. Not a question, we do not elect anyone, we are not going to. This, by the way, is exactly the genius who called the Russian military superfluous people, whom it is better to dispose of in the interests of the state. The values are beautiful, everything is like in young republics. Anab unexpectedly told the truth about the war. Deputies from Yakutia, friends, explain why the residents of the region are going to war in Ukraine. Presumably not because of ideology, but because of poverty. There is no decent work or salary in the region. There is not enough money to support a family. So what is left? The
main part of them to support a family. Yeah, there was.
Not enough money to, that is, here, being in Yakutsk, they could not find a decent job in their specialty and go there to receive the payment that they are entitled to. And there is at the borders, protecting our borders and at the same time closing the issue of employment, because they somehow didn't find themselves here or found, but this was still not enough. And this is the worst problem. And these people are there today, losing themselves, of course. When they lose or get injured, they may then be unable to work. It is ironic that Yakutia is considered one of the richest regions of Russia in terms of the number of resources, including diamonds. And the Yakuts, out of poverty, go, like ordinary mercenaries, to kill Ukrainians for the Tsar, in order to get crumbs from him from the Kremlin table. Actually, that's where they stay. Wherever they go to kill, they die themselves. Friends, the day before yesterday I told you about the new FSB scheme, how they recruit traitors, try to kill Ukrainian soldiers with the hands of Ukrainian traitors. A former SBU employee said that explosives or poison can be installed literally in anything. So please be careful. Honey, Snickers, cookies, coffee. Ivan Stupak spoke about the use of completely different methods to defeat Ukrainian soldiers, volunteers. Any people who are valuable to the country. So please be careful about what is around you. The
Russian Federation, for example, through its agents, transferred to our servicemen as volunteer aid a banal jar of honey. A 3-liter jar of honey. And you can't see what's inside. And there was an explosive device there, designed so that when you open it, pull the lid, pull this string there and an explosion occurs. Unfortunately, our soldiers died then. So, once again, these are creative methods and you have to be careful. You also have to be careful. For example, the first thing that comes to mind, salespeople, saleswomen who work in stores here just have coffee, Snickers, there, I don't know, some cookies. In the frontline regions, they can also be recruited by the Russians. They can also be passed on to our servicemen. Are we fantasizing? I don't know, there, I don't know, some skers, and it could be poisonous, it could be easy, it could be I don't know, some kind of I don't know, there's some kind of package, I don't know, something packed in there. It could also be mined, poisoned, anything. Therefore, we need to work proactively here, and not reactively in the tracks that were already there.
Look at other FSB plans implemented here.